CCTV's Anand Naidoo recently sat down with Adotei Akwei of Amnesty International and asked him if Africa's cultural norms and values play into that result.
I think they do, in the sense that political leadership and spokespersons who possess a particular viewpoint will continually manipulate and claim that these are indeed non-African values. And that is clearly being speculated in Nigeria, where there are concerns that the new legislation was driven by members of the religious community and very conservative elements. What we do have is a failure of leadership to educate people about the need for tolerance, the need for the rule of law, and to respect individual choice. And that's, I think, what the challenge is ahead of us, whether we are going to be able to change attitudes at the leadership level, which will then contribute to changing attitudes in the general population.
Right, and I guess if it's seen as something that's imposed on Africa by Western nations particularly, then it becomes difficult for Western nations to try and change attitudes.
That is correct. It's going to be a combination of domestic and internal voices that indeed raise the cry of, we cannot discriminate against people that we've grown up with who live next door to us just based on their sexuality and their sexual identification, as well as international. I think we're talking about international standards that are mirrored in the African Union Charter. No one imposed those words on the African Charter and the people who drafted it in the 1960s. And they certainly weren't drafted by people who were Western imperialists. These were the founding fathers of post-colonial Africa. So those are things I think people need to remember, that Africa came to independence with the idea of equality and tolerance for all Africans, and this seems to be being thrown out.
When we look at the long-term outlook on this particular issue for Africa, I mean, there is a group of people who think that the reason that there is such a virulent opposition from government and other bodies to homosexuality in Africa is because the pro-gay movement is so organized and doing relatively well in some countries.
That's an interesting theory. There are other people who think that that this issue is being used to distract people's attention from economic situations or political situations, crises, to distract from government failures or corruption scandals. There are all sorts of, I think, reasons that a government might want to take up an issue that has, quote unquote, a resonance or has voices, and that can easily then be used as a justification for resisting external calls for moderation.
Okay, Mr. Akwei, I'm going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.